1965. The humid jungles of Southeast Asia became a brutal crucible for the American military. It was a war where high-tech innovation met the primitive reality of mud, rain, and invisible enemies. In this environment, a soldier's life depended entirely on the steel in his hands. From the controversial birth of the black rifle to the terrifying silence of the tunnel rats, the weapons of the Vietnam War were as diverse as the terrain itself. Today we're taking an exhaustive look at every major American weapon that defined this conflict. This is the ultimate breakdown of the Vietnam War arsenal. The M16 is the undisputed icon of the war. Originally dubbed the space-age rifle, its early days were a disaster. Due to lack of cleaning kits and proper propellant, these rifles jammed constantly in the heat of battle, costing lives. However, once the issues were ironed out, its high-velocity 5.55mm rounds and lightweight frame became the gold standard. But before the M16, there was the M14. It was a heavy wood-stocked powerhouse. While accurate at long range, it was a nightmare in the thick jungle too. Long to maneuver and nearly impossible to control on full auto. For the veterans and early advisors, the M1 Garand and M1 Carbine from World War II still saw action. The Carbine, in particular, was a favorite for support troops and South Vietnamese allies due to its small size, and for the elite, the Stoner 63. This was a modular masterpiece used primarily by Navy SEALs, capable of transforming from a rifle into a light machine gun in minutes. In a war where you rarely saw your enemy, the sniper was the ultimate psychological weapon. The Marine Corps put their faith in the M40, a bolt-action rifle based on the Remington 700. It was simple, sturdy, and surgical. The Army, however, wanted more speed, leading to the M21, built on the M14 platform. It gave marksmen the ability to take rapid follow-up shots in the dense brush. We also saw the return of the M1903A4, Springfield, and the Winchester Model 70. These weren't just old relics. In the hands of legends like Carlos Hath, they became instruments of terror for the North Vietnamese Army. When the jungle erupted in an ambush, the Americans answered with lead and, lots of it, meet the M60. They called it the pig because it was heavy, awkward, and hungry for ammo, but it was the heartbeat of the squad. Every GI knew the sound of its slow, rhythmic chug in the skies and on the riverboats. The M2 Browning .50 cal reigned supreme, capable of punching through huts and light armor with ease. We also saw the M1919A6 and the M1918, reliable designs that were getting old but could still stop an enemy charge in its tracks. But nothing compared to the M134 minigun, capable of spitting out 6,000 rounds per minute. It turned the night sky into a solid wall of tracer fire, protecting fire bases and extraction zones from certain destruction. The M3 grease gun and the Thompson were World War II holdovers that still excelled in tight quarters. But special forces wanted something better. They turned to the Swedish K and the Smith & Wesson M76. These were compact, reliable, and didn't mind getting soaked in river water. And then, there were the jungle sweepers. The Ithaca 37 and Remington 870 shotguns were devastating in point-blank ambushes. The Ithaca was particularly prized because it ejected shells from the bottom, keeping the mud and rain out of the action. The tunnel rats crawled into the pit. VC tunnel systems armed with nothing but their wits and a Colt M1911A1. The .45 caliber pistol was a legend, but the muzzle blast in a tiny tunnel was deafening. This led to the creation of the QSP-era Quiet, specialized revolver that fired tungsten pellets. For the silent and deadly missions, the high-standard HDM-suppressed pistol allowed for quiet eliminations, while the Browning high power became a high-capacity favorite for those who could get their hands on one. When the infantry needed a pocket mortar, they reached for the M79 Blooper. It was a single-shot grenade launcher that changed squad tactics forever. It was later replaced by the M203, which attached directly to the M16. For heavier targets, the M72 LAW offered a disposable lightweight rocket for taking out bunkers if you needed more punch. The M67 recoilless rifle or the M2 flamethrower were the go-to choices for clearing out reinforced positions. But defense was just as important. The M18A1 Claymore mine became the ultimate perimeter guard. With its front toward enemy instruction, it turned a 60-degree arc into a kill zone of steel ball bearings. The weapons of Vietnam were born from a mix of necessity and desperate innovation. Some, like the M16, evolved into modern legends. Others, like the M60, became symbols of a specific era of grit and determination. They were tools of a war that changed the world forever.
Which of these weapons do you think was the most effective in the jungle? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe.